the S&P 500 is still having a negative return year to date as of the date of recording in March 2025. And this may have shook many short-term investors away from investing in the US S&P 500 index. But I'm still holding it without panic, and this is one of the simplest and risk-diversified approach to invest in the stock market for the long term to build your wealth. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with S&P 500, this is a market capitalization weighted index of 500 leading companies in the US. But the truth is, we cannot buy the index. We can only buy the ETF or unit trust that is tracking the index or the similar companies that the S&P 500 index is holding. So if you want a deeper level of investment discussions, come and join us at close to 20,000 members in the Honey Money SG Telegram group for free and ask your questions to build your long-term retirement. So based on the title of this video is to show you using your cash, CPF and SRS what are the best ways, because the best ways may not apply based on what funding you choose for. And I felt that for CPF and SRS it is much easier to justify, so I'll go with that option first. In my recent video, I've already disclosed that I will transfer some of my Endowus positions to Poems for Amundi Prime USA funds. If you're unfamiliar about the Amundi Prime USA funds, this is a unit trust that tracks the performance of the sole active GBS United States Large and Mid Cap Index. So it is not exactly the S&P 500, but it will track a similar companies within the S&P 500. And we are looking at the likes of Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, Amazon and Meta. So for Amundi Prime USA fund, it will include some mid-cap companies. Therefore, it is not a 100% replication to the S&P 500. But why do I choose it? Is because it has one of the lowest expense ratio of 0.05% per annum, which means that for every $10,000 you invested per year, you are going to pay $5 to Amundi. Just to be clear, this 0.05% is not out of your own pocket, so it's just automatically deducted from the fund value itself. And one more good thing about Amundi Prime USA funds is that the dividends are reinvested back to the fund. So it's an accumulating unit trust instead of distributing out the dividends to you. And to be super clear, it will still get 30% dividend withholding tax because it is domiciled in Luxembourg. And the beauty of Amundi Prime USA fund is that it is available for both CPF OA and SRS investing, which means you could link your CPF investment account and SRS bank account on the Poems portal so that you can then use your SRS or CPF funds to invest in the Amundi Prime USA fund. Then the next question will be, why buy on Poems and not on Endowus? And truth to be told, I've been using Endowus for my past few years investing in the CPF OA, and Endowus is charging 0.3% per annum based on the fund smart management fee per year. Whereas if you look at Poems, they recently launched the Amundi Unit Trust on their platform. Poems does not charge any sales charge or any platform fees. So it's really zero, which means that for every $10,000 I invested per year, I'm going to save $30. And that is absolute cost savings, which is why I already moved some of my Endowus portfolios to Poems. Anyway, this episode is not sponsored at all, to be objective. So if you want to support the channel, you can use my Poems link to sign up and get some welcome gifts if that benefits you. Then I know some of you ask, for CPF and SRS, both also use Amundi Prime USA. I thought last time you say got BlackRock iShares S&P 500. Okay, that one I already went through in another video lah. So I already compared those two and I felt that Amundi Prime USA is superior. So if you want to know the reasons why I eventually chose Amundi Prime USA instead of the BlackRock iShares fund, then you can refer to that video, which I'll put in the description also. Then moving on, let's talk about cash, because cash has much more options, right? Which also means there are many more considerations that you should take note of. So when we say invest in S&P 500, the most popular fund in this world must have been VOO, Vanguard S&P 500 ETF. Now, why it's so popular is not just because of the name. You know, VOO, V is 5 in Roman, and then OO is like 00, so 500. But that's not the point. The point is, it has one of the cheapest expense ratio at 0.03% per annum, which means for every $10,000, you're only paying $3. And it tracks super close to the benchmark of S&P 500 index. So there's very little tracking error. Not only that, it is highly liquid, which means there are a lot of fund flows and you can trade it during US hours. But there are some downsides to VOO ETF. And one of the downside is that it is dividends distributing, which means that your dividends at title will be paid out to your account instead of reinvesting back to the ETF. That means if you want to reinvest, you have to incur your own transaction cost or commission again. Not only that, there is also 30% dividends withholding tax since it is domiciled in the US, plus up to 40% of estate taxes if you were to pass it down to your next generation. So this is all according to the US tax laws and you have to comply. But I would say that investing in VOO is one of the cheapest ways and straightforward ways because most of your favorite brokerage platforms would offer VOO if they are open to US market trading. But if you don't know which brokerage to choose, I already have some of them listed on my SG promo code page. But if you want to ask me for my recommendation, right now, based on welcome rewards, I would select Longbridge because Longbridge has the 8% interest boost coupon, plus you can earn up to 1 NVIDIA or 1 Apple share depending on your fund and trade requirements, plus the holding period terms and conditions. So you can refer to my Longbridge link and read the terms and conditions to see if you can fulfill them. In fact, on my wife's new Longbridge account, she has already received her 1 Apple share in March. So it's not a fake gimmick, you just fulfill the terms and conditions and then you can get the reward. Simple as that. But that's all about VOO because I want to talk about the most cost competitive option, and that is to invest in the Ireland-domiciled ETFs like VUAA, CSPX or SPYL. These are ETFs listed outside the US market and they do track the S&P 500 index very closely. Now, why would we as Singapore residents prefer these ETFs is because they will enjoy a lower dividend withholding tax of 15% since it is domiciled in Ireland, and there will be no estate taxes because it is not domiciled in US, which means it is tax favorable on both ends. Also, the dividends will be reinvested instead of paid out to you. So it is more effective if you just want to keep accumulating the fund, instead of you getting the money back, then you want to reinvest back and incur your own brokerage or commission costs. Then why do some people not prefer to invest in Ireland domiciled funds like all these CSPX and SPYL ETF? Now, I know the main reason, but let's give you a side reason why people prefer not. Because you are trading in UK or Europe hours instead of the US hours. So ultimately, there will either be a time mismatch or a date mismatch. For example, the US is having holidays, but then the UK and Europe is still working. Or the UK-Europe region are enjoying their holidays, but the US market is still running, and then you cannot trade your ETF whether you want to buy or sell. And that is a realistic scenario, because there are some holidays that Europe enjoy that US don't enjoy. So sometimes when you want to add more position or sell away your position, you realize, hey, the market closed, I cannot do my action, and it's quite frustrating. But that's just a side reason. Let's talk about the main reason. And the main reason is because most of the brokerages do not offer access to London Stock Exchange and other markets that offer all these ETFs. But one of the best brokerages in the world that offer this is Interactive Brokers, which I already have a link, and you can scan the QR code right here if you want to go to Interactive Brokers. And of course, I can hear your concern. Why people don't like to use Interactive Brokers is because of the poor user interface. Now, on a personal opinion, I don't feel that it is as poor as what people think. Yes, it used to be worse, but now they have improved a lot over the years. I'll show you. For example, if I want to make a buy order on CSPX on the Interactive Brokers platform, I just have to search CSPX. Then I can click buy for a single order, or if I want to do an RSP recurring buy, I can just select recurring, and that is the dollar cost average your positions based on how much you want to invest and at a regular time period of the month or quarter. So that's it. I don't understand the concern on poor UI. You just have to know how to buy and how to fund, right? And Interactive Brokers even have this automatic FX conversion where if you just deposit SGD, it will help you convert to USD for your buy order when your order is executed. And that's automatic, okay? You don't have to do any kind of manual FX conversion. If you want to deposit funds into Interactive Brokers, it is also super easy and fast. You just have to link the bank account via eGiro and just click to deposit. After the eGiro authorization is done, your funds will arrive immediately within 10 seconds. Now, even if you want to deposit US dollars, Interactive Brokers can do that for you. If you deposit via DBS multi-currency account, it will arrive within the same workday. That's my experience. So really, Interactive Brokers is not hard as many people claim them to be. If you just want to buy and hold, and funding is super easy and fast, I think it's comparable to many of the other brokerages out there. So if you want to support the channel, either scan this QR or click the Interactive Brokers link. So that's how I would recommend someone to invest in the S&P 500 using the cash, CPF or SRS. And I know that many of you will still have questions and unsure of how to do this and what is this about. So write your questions in the comment section below or join my Telegram group. Ask your questions there and someone would probably provide the right answer. And if you're not interested in S&P 500, 500 either based on your risk level or you have other preferences, then at least you need to learn how to invest in other ways. So refer to my video on how to invest for beginners in Singapore 2025.